we arrived to begin the ASF, the middle of January, USAF people formulated our ASF to 50 beds. 50 beds were open when we arrived. From Wright-Patterson, the 35th Air Medical Patient Staging Squadron, we brought 92 people to begin functioning of our Air Medical ASF. We opened to 150 beds the day after we arrived. About a week later, we received 50 more people, and we opened to 250-bed facility. We have 130 beds in this hangar and 120 in the other hangar. We have functioned well, and things have gone extremely smoothly during the month and a half we've been open. I would say some of the lessons learned, one item is the importance of communications. Without total coordination and communication with the other elements involved in aeromedical evacuation, we could not run this facility. We have the aeromedical control element and the aeromedical control center that we talk on the phone about every hour to maintain good communications in order to make patient flow run smoothly. Another lesson learned is ideally it would have been more beneficial to have all personnel arriving to staff this facility be part of an aeromedical staging facility back home. This did not happen. Our core unit, the 35th, is an aeromedical staging unit. Other personnel arrived from a medical squadron. They did not have ASF background, but we learned that quickly they were incorporated into the group and were able to pick up and begin functioning quite well. As long as the core group is an ASF, that was probably the most important thing. And we did have people to train the others. But it is imperative that an aeromedical staging facility be staffed by aeromedical staging people who have this expertise that they've learned back home. Even though the ground war did not start till not more than a few days ago, our ASF has been extremely busy since we arrived. We've been running missions receiving missions from downrange and then staging the CONUS missions from here. Practically every day there are aircraft coming and going, the C-141s. Recently we've also picked up the peacetime missions of the C-9s and C-130s that will be doing intra-theater air evac. This incorporates a peacetime mission and a wartime mission, which has kept us extremely busy, but with our 157 personnel we've been able to effectively manage this, keep the patient flow running well, and we've not had any problems with late flights. Coordination and the meshing of the 4 units that we have here went extremely well. People work together and have blended well. They have worked extremely hard together to accomplish this mission.
If we do have a soldier that arrives here, whether it be Marine, Navy, or Air Force, airman that is wounded in action down in the Kuwaiti Theater of Operations, he'll be seen initially in a 2E facility out within the theater, and will be air evac from that 2E facility back to a 3E facility within the country of Saudi Arabia. From there, he'll spend about 4 to 7 days in the theater, and eventually will be re-triaged from there, stabilized, and then moved up to the Germany or England areas, and be re-triaged again in an ASF, aeromedical staging facility, and be regulated to one of the contingency hospitals or one of the fixed facilities. That's when we come into play, we get them at that point. Of course, the United States is the only people that are moving our patients for us. We've had tremendous support from the Germans in moving our patients within theater and within the theater here in Germany. They've been willing to move our patients from Zweibrücken to almost any place within country. The aeromedical section in this facility is made up of about 8 medical administrative folks and 2 nursing service folks, and we've all kind of worked well together so far. in that some of the folks do have quite extensive training in aeromedical evacuation in a peacetime mode and back in the States, and have been able to help some of the younger folks and train the younger folks in preparing for their mission here. And the training has helped tremendously, and the section is gelled very well together.
Every one of our patients who arrives here will go on to another facility, whether it's to another facility here in Germany or to the United States. The key element here is that we work real hard on our coordination of aeromedical evacuation of the patients. We've learned a lot from getting the patients out of here that have come in from the Gulf region, and although they were not battle injuries, there was a wide variety of medical and disease problems that they had that we were able to take care of.
Well, the 609th Contingency Hospital was to be a turnkey hospital where we just walked in and everything would be in place. We found when we arrived here that there was actually quite a lot of work that needed to be done. Approximately 2 weeks was spent round the clock with all of our staff doing the things that needed to be done to make the hospital operational. I think it's a tribute to the ingenuity and the hard work of everybody, all of the staff of the hospital, that we were able to accomplish that in a 2-week period of time.
You have to keep the people informed of what's going on. You have to try and limit the rumors, make sure that people get accurate information as soon as it's available, and things like that. First thing I noticed is that there's a limited amount of resources here, but that people are coming from locations where they have specific equipment that's more advanced than what we are able to use because we are a contingency hospital. So you always have to keep in mind that resources are limited and teach the people to work with what we have.
There are several real good points about having this facility as Air Force Contingency Hospital. The biggest one, of course, is this used to be a German Krankenhaus, that is a hospital, and it is set up very nicely as a hospital. However, it does not meet current U.S. healthcare standards for taking care of patients in this day and age. However, with not a great deal of work, we were able to get things in place and make this a workable facility. I think the most important things we have done has not been the physical setup of the hospital into a contingency hospital. It has been more a coordinating effort with area agencies and in-house resources. When I say the area agencies, I'm talking about the Aeromedical Staging Facility at Ramstein, the Army Community Hospital at Landstuhl. Part of it was with Wiesbaden Air Force Hospital, and not the least of which was the 421st Evacuation Battalion at Ramstein, who provides our transportation.
We found that due to some of the fact that some of the table of allowances that we were looking at were made some years ago, that we had to examine these very, very carefully and we found that in areas such as the laboratory, pharmacy, radiology, and so forth, and some of the equipment that was available was somewhat outdated and obsolete. And I feel that in the future, a lesson learned from this would be that the TAs probably should be examined at a much more frequent interval.
Within each section, there was a lot of innovative thought that went into improving each area. Just as an example, we found that there was a problem with air exchange in the surgery suite, and we had that looked at by some engineers that came in very short order, were able to put in a ventilation system that gave us an air exchange rate that was comparable to operating suites in the United States.
The only item that I think would need reinforcement would be in the area of transportation, because although the 421st Evacuation Hospital is providing patient transportation, we've still had a great number of requirements for transportation of our people, of supplies, equipment, and some patients too. So I think the thing we need to work on is making sure that everybody is qualified to drive and that the records that say they're qualified to drive arrive with them.
Perhaps some of the UTCs, the build, the proportion of people assigned might be worked with and will be no doubt an extensive part of our after-action reports.
Of course, the United States is the only people that are moving our patients for us. We've had tremendous support from the Germans in moving our patients within theater and within the theater here. In Germany, they've been willing to move our patients from Zweibrücken to almost any place within country. And we've had very good dealings with them, moving patients out to Nuremberg and Frankfurt, as well as some of the smaller places like Augsburg and Stuttgart.
Before we received any actual patients, we did several drills where we had some of our own personnel act as patients. And I think we were able to demonstrate that people's levels of training enabled them to work together very well, and we certainly could handle the situation that was presented to us.
Although when we arrived here, we thought we knew we had to coordinate, I think we found out through this effort that we had to spend a lot more time coordinating and should have done even more than we did. However, after some lessons learned, we think that we're all on the same wavelength and that things will and have worked very well.
We really felt that within 24 to 48 hours of arriving here, we could have taken care of patients. We could have handled just about anything that came our way.
From the small number of patients we've had, from the experience of being here, setting up the facility, and the lessons that we've learned, we feel that we've been able to contribute a great deal toward the readiness programs.
This bare-bones hangar was identified as the site of an aeromedical patient staging facility after the hostilities started in the Persian Gulf, and in late October equipment came in and activity started in order to set it up to handle incoming patients from the combat area. Initially it was designed to handle only 100 patients, then it was expanded to 150, and finally to 250 capability. An aeromedical staging facility is designed to receive patients who are air evac'd out of the combat zone. We're fortunate here in that the aircraft park right in front of our front door. Our job then is to remove the patients from the aircraft, move them into this facility, triage them, and establish the severity and types of injuries, give them emergency care or change dressings, give them medications if needed, and perform any emergency surgery that may be done. Once that is accomplished, they are then regulated to various hospitals in the area. We are a hub, so patients who come to us go specifically to two general hospitals in the area. And we move them to those hospitals by land transportation and ambulances or ambulance buses or by helicopter. Our aim is to take care of the patients and then move them on as quickly as possible so that they get into a more sophisticated treatment area and so that we are clear for the next incoming group of patients. This staging facility is actually made up of many different units. The main ones being the 33rd Aeromedical Patient Staging Squadron from McGuire Air Force Base and the 44th APSS from Travis Air Force Base in California. In addition to that, we have the aeromedical evacuation flight crews numbering about 500 people, 5 persons to a crew and 100 crews. In addition, we have Army support for transportation from the 7th Medical Command here in Germany, and we have the 4th Field Ambulance Unit from the Canadian Army backing us up. The training that we've undergone has paid off handsomely in this situation. We have practiced this many times over in our home stations, and even more importantly, we have been deployed overseas for exercises, most importantly the Reforger exercises, which is return of forces from Germany, and those really were the most realistic training that we have had and very closely resembled what we're actually doing today. So I would say the training is good and the people knew what they were doing. Most of them, of course, are younger than I am and do not remember some of the wars that I do, but they have reacted beautifully and are doing a fine job. The cooperation has been superb. The Canadian 4th Field Ambulance has given us marvelous transportation facilities. They have ambulance buses that are excellent with oxygen and suction on them. They have supplied us with manpower, and we have really greatly appreciated their help. The German contingent has supplied us with helicopters as well as manpower, and the German civilian community is there. They have a command post here which tabulates all the available beds in the German nearby hospitals, and they are available to us in case our own facilities should become overloaded. The Army likewise has given us excellent support. So it's been a very integrated and successful procedure here. This situation is ideal. In other words, we are not removed from the flight line. The airplane comes to our front door and we only have to move the patient very short distances to get them in and out. Secondly, the proximity of the different phases of this operation is close together. In other words, our aeromedical control element, which controls the flights coming and going, and our ASF itself here, as well as the Army transportation people, and the people we call JAMRO, which is the Medical Regulating Office, which keeps track of all the patients, where they are, where they're going. We are all side by side here. The physical proximity to each other greatly enhances our ability to do the job and to communicate well, because communication is key to the successful operation of this type. I'd just like to mention that the folks here in this hangar are all reservists, and they've been moved out of all kinds of civilian jobs and home situations, and it was on rather short notice. They've risen to the occasion magnificently, in my view, and even though many have made sacrifices financially, as well as missing their families and all, they have come through in great style, and I'm proud of them.